ginong ko number ano na, yung ginong ko number 12 na, local. Ano yung sabihin nun? Sa Marolas?
Apo, kung saan yung ni-register ko.
Wala pa ako na-register.
Ako number 5 ulit.
Wow. Grabe.
So, good afternoon guys. Nagmerienda lang ako saglit kasi sunod-sunod yung class ko kanina. So, I'll be presenting the screen now for our next topic. Nakikita na ba yung screen, class?
Yes, ma'am. Opo.
Okay.
Po.
So, our next topic, class, is all about financial planning analysis. So, it composed of the ratio analysis, DuPont Relationships, ratio analysis involves maximization, and some analytical problems. So, this financial analysis class is used as a strategy that will determine if the company is good to invest. So, kailangan makita niyo yung financial statement nila. Excuse me. Kailangan makita niyo yung financial statement nila, class. Okay? And then, you will conduct a ratio analysis sa financial statements nila. So, alam niyo naman kung ano yung mga financial statements natin. Income statement, balance sheet, cash flow, statement of owners and equity. So, ito yung mga pag-aaralan natin. So, what is ratio analysis? So, this is very simple because you just simply divide one number to another number. But, you need to understand why are we dividing those number? What is the significance of that ratio to the decision of the company? And second, why calculate ratios? It makes the data more meaningful and understandable. So, we have high, low, and average on how we judge this ratio analysis. So, our industry averages is Dun and Bradstreet, Robert Morris Associates, Trade Associations, and there are prior period ratios which is calculated from the firm's previous financial statements. Kaya sinawag na prior period ratios kasi, for example, the fiscal year now is 2021, 'di ba? So, pero ang kinakalculate natin is yung iba pang mga fiscal period na nauna. So, kadalasan nagkakaroon tayo ng trend analysis for that. Ayan, example ng trend analysis. Para talagang ma-compare side by side kung saan nagkakaroon ng huge difference or variances dun sa mga account natin. And then, ang current goal natin is goals are stated in the form of ratios. So, paano yon? Ibig sabihin, if we can see na medyo lumalaki na yung liabilities natin or utang natin, 'di ba? That's the time na paliliitan na din natin yung ratio natin. Okay? In the form of ratios, in the form of number, para maging mas quantifiable siya. And we also use benchmarking. So, benchmarking is a group of selected companies formed for your own industry. So, selected companies but related sa industry mo. So, ang industry mo is manufacturing company. Dapat, ang kino-compare mo as a benchmarking is yung mga nasa manufacturing industry. Okay? So, for example, si SM. Ano ba yung mga benchmark companies nila? Ayala, 'di ba? So, yun. Yung mga kailangan nating isaalang-alang para sa pagbe-benchmark. So, if ever naman mga food, ayun, food industries din. So, common size ratio. So, each item is stated as a percentage of total assets, and if it's a common size income statement, each item is stated as a percentage of sales. Percentage of sales. So, next is the liquidity ratios class. So, you need to meet the short-term obligations. Kaya siya tinawag na liquidity ratio, diba? From the word liquidity. Kailangan mas mabilis nating natatransfer yung ating mga assets into cash. So, paano natin makukuha ang ating current ratio? So, in your financial statement, so this is under balance sheet, diba? So, current assets. and over the current liabilities. So, kapag quick ratio naman, mina-minus natin yung inventory. Kasi ang inventory, mabagal yan i-convert sa cash. Dahil kailangan mo muna yung ibenta. 'Di ba? So, pag quick ratio class, we need to less the current assets minus the inventory over the current liabilities. So, si liabilities yung nasa denominator natin. So, asset utilization ratio, so this is effective use of assets in the process of generating sales. And also, receivable ratios. Ideally, credit sales should be used for the receivable ratios. However, only total sales are available at times. So, paano natin ma-measure yung receivable turnover? Ibig sabihin, gaano ba kabilis magbayad ng utang? Okay, yung ating customer. So, sales, nasa income statement yan, over accounts receivable, which is nasa balance sheet. Ayun ang ating accounts receivable turnover. Pero, what if you need to find the average collection period? So, accounts receivable over sales over 360. So, these are the days sales outstanding. Bakit 360? This is the fixed period for a year. 'Di ba? So, ito yung ginagawa nating denominator, 360, which is equivalent to 1 year. So, asset utilization ratio class, so this is very easy. You need to divide the sales over inventories. So, bakit ba natin ginagawa tong ratio na to? So, sometimes it is used in sales for the average inventories that may replace ending inventories. Kasi sa sales, kumukuha naman kasi siya sa inventory natin, di ba? So, gaano tayo kabilis dapat mag-replenish ng inventory para mabenta natin? Okay? So, yun yung kanyang mini-measure. Next is the asset turnover ratio. So, this one, we have the fixed asset turnover. So, from the word itself, fixed asset, diba? So, ang sinasama lang natin dito is yung mga nasa fixed assets. And, total assets turnover, syempre, yung total assets. So, dito naman, debt utilization ratios, it is used for financial leverage. It's talking about the capacity na pwede tayo mangutang sa ating mga sources of funds. So, debt ratio is equivalent to total liabilities over total assets. So, kabaliktaran siya, 'di ba? Ng parang quick ratio kanina natin. Pero current assets naman yung current assets yun over current liabilities. And we have also the times interest earned, which is the EBIT. This is earnings before income tax. Kung alam niyo yung EBIT na to. Okay? So, ibig sabihin ng earnings before income tax, dapat di mo pa sinasali dyan yung tax na babayaran mo. Okay? Over the interest expense. So, fixed charge coverage ratio, we have the EBIT plus lease payments over interest plus lease payments. So, lease, it came from our mga nagrerenta, 'di ba? For example, may mga binayaran tayo kasi hindi naman sa atin yung pwesto or nagre-rent lang tayo doon sa isang establishment. So, yun yung tinatawag natin na lease. Could also be adjusted to include principal payments on loans. So, next is the profitability ratio. So, ginagamit to para ma-identify if talagang kumikita yung company nyo, 'di ba? So, gross profit margin is equal to gross profit over sales. Operating profit margin is EBIT over sales. And net profit margin is equal to net income after tax over sales. So, sa profitability ratio class, we have also the ROI, which is the return on investment. So, return on assets, return on total equities, and return on common equity. So, this one, it includes the net income after taxes. So, kanina yung EBIT, diba? It's earnings before income tax. Ito, net income after taxes to. As in, yung pinaka-final, natin, profit. Over total assets. And we have also return on total equity is equal to net income after taxes over stockholders' equity. And return on common equity, we have this one, EAC over common equity. So, DuPont Relationship. So, ito, pinagsamang return on assets. So, meron tayong asset turnover times net profit margin. So, inano ko naman siya, dinisect. So, sales over total assets ang ibig sabihin ng asset turnover. And net profit margin, ito yung net income over sales. So, it is also equivalent to net income over total assets. So, return on total equity, we have the ROA, return on assets, divided by 1 minus total liability over total assets. So, dito muna kayo, class, mag-compute. Kailangan nyo muna itong i-compute and then yung result dito is i-divide nyo lang dito sa ROA. Next is the market value ratios. So, this one, note that the book value per share is common equity divided by the number of shares. So, the cash flow per share equals net income plus depreciation or amortization divided by the number of shares outstanding. So, price per share, nako-compute naman yan. Okay. And given to sa isang problem, over earnings per share. Itong earnings per share. And then, magkakaroon tayo ng price earnings ratio. Price to book value. Kadalasan sa corporation kasi to, sa mga may stocks. Price to cash flow, price per share over cash flow. Price to sales, price per share over sales per share. Alam nyo naman na lang to, parang it's really easy, diba, if we have the list, but etong mga to, you need to memorize and understand what could be the possible formula in terms na mag-exam kayo in the future. So, what I know and the strategy I know is that itong price is always on the nasa taas, and then yung specific na i-divide nyo dun sa price per share is nandito naman sa kanyang tawag. Yan, book value, cash flow, and sales. Para hindi kayo malito. So, kung ano yung unang sinabi dun sa problem, return on, okay, yun yung nasa taas. So, kung mapapansin nyo, yan, return on assets, gross profit margin, yan, operating profit margin, net profit margin. So, this is the ratio analysis and wealth maximization. So, maganda din to na intindihin nyo siya para makita nyo talaga yung breakdown. So, si expense and si sales. Okay, so ito yung pinaka-mother category natin. If we need to have an expense and sales here, so ang kakalabasan niya is si net profit margin. So, si sales, pagpunta siya kay total asset turnover. And then, to total asset turnover, yan, nadadissect nyo si return on sales. Si debt to asset ratio, return on total equity, preferred stock financing, return on common equity. Pero take note of this. Ito lang yung kaisa-isang nag-touch nung point. na hindi na lumakpa. So, expenses, net profit margin, return on assets, return on total equity, and return on common equity. So, this is the most important part of the wealth maximization. Kailangan mo kontrolin yung expense mo. If ever magkaroon ka ng company in the future, or pwede mong i-recommend dun sa company. Net profit margin, laging binabantayan to. Kasi this is all about the income. Also, the return on assets, equity, and the common equity. So, ratio analysis and wealth maximization. So, you have the return on common equity, book value per share is equal to earnings per share. So, kanina, diba class, meron tayo dong formula on how to get the price per share ratio. So, bago mo makuha tong earnings per share, sabi ko, this is the computation. Kailangan mong makuha muna yung return on common equity times the book value per share. And if you want to have this price per share, yun, earnings per share times price earnings ratio. So, some analytical problems involving asset quality. So, meron ako mga questions dito. Is it possible to increase ROI by avoiding the purchase of new plant and equipment? Example, keep the asset base low. Of course, the firm may suffer in the long run. Ibig sabihin ng ROI is the return on income. So, tama naman na may may relationship yung pag-purchase ng new plant and equipment sa income. Syempre, it's an expense, 'di ba? Yung kanina nakita natin, it's a type of expense kapag nag-purchase ka ng new plant and equipment. Keep the asset base low. Ayan. So, dito, hindi siya magandang hindi siya magandang solution para mag-increase yung ROI. 'Di ba? Kasi itong purchase of new plant and equipment, this is the one who will generate the ROI. So, kung in-avoid mo siya, syempre, hindi siya makakatulong dun sa production ng company natin. So, sorry sa ingay ha. Ayan. So, ito naman, second, a high level of accounts receivable may improve the current ratio, but what if a large percentage of accounts are uncollectible? So, ayun na nga. Ito kadalasan nagiging problema para sa mga accounts receivable, no, na nagiging uncollectible. So, meron tayong certain policy dyan. Kadalasan nira-write off siya pag sobrang tagal na. Diba? It doesn't mean, class, na mataas yung account receivable mo is maganda yung current ratio mo. Kadalasan, kailangan mong batayan yung mga uncollectible accounts. Ito pa. So, inflation. Sales and profits may increase simply because of rising prices, even without an increase in physical volume. And replacement cost of assets may be higher than historical cost. Excuse me. Next is inventory accounting. So, if the firms employ different techniques, yan. LIFO and FIFO. So, this one class, na-touch lang natin to. This is the methods or technique using the inventory accounting system. So, we have the last in, first out, and the first in, first out method. Pero hindi pa natin yan pag-aaralan. So, industry averages. So, some firms operate in more than one. Ayan. So, this, ano lang to, parang more on analytical problem. So, what you gonna do, class, is you have a small exercise lang. So, you need to compute, no, yung ratio analysis. Yan. Pero hindi pa ngayon. So, yun yung magiging ano nyo, exercise nyo. Gagawa kayo ng financial ratio analysis. So, I'll be sending the financial statements and you will compute for the ratio analysis of the company. I'll be sending all the materials later. So, let's move on to the next topic. Hold on. Close ko lang muna yung
Support mo lagi yung
live.
support. Ba?